My name is Ilara Monroe. I'm 34 years old, a cardiology resident, and a single mother to 3-year-old twins, Aurea and Ethan. 2 months ago, I was lying in an emergency room, bleeding internally after a car accident. My hands shook as I dialed my parents' number. I needed someone, anyone, to watch the twins for a few hours while doctors tried to save my life. Instead, I got a message in our family group chat: "You've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have concert tickets with Serena tonight. Figure it out yourself." I stared at the screen, disbelief freezing my fingers. I was in a hospital bed, drifting in and out of consciousness, and they chose a concert over my children. My heart ached, not from the pain of my injuries, but from the realization that the people who were supposed to have my back didn't care. I swallowed my panic, called a 24-hour nanny service, paid triple their rate, and ensured Aurea and Ethan would be safe. That day, I made a decision that would change everything. I cut my parents off financially and emotionally. The mortgage payments, the insurance premiums, the car repairs, they had all been quietly coming from my bank account for the past 8 years. No more. Growing up in the Monroe household, I quickly learned that love came with a ranking system. My older sister, Serena, was the golden child, effortlessly charming, beautiful, and always the center of attention. When she announced she wanted to pursue fashion design, my mother cried happy tears, and my father praised her vision. When I told them I wanted to become a doctor, the reaction was muted. "Practical," my father said. That was all. Practical. No excitement. No celebration. I buried myself in textbooks, excelling in every exam, attending a top medical school, and completing a rigorous residency. Yet no matter how much I achieved, it never compared to Serena in my parents' eyes. The favoritism wasn't only emotional, it was financial. 8 years ago, my father asked for help with the mortgage. $2,400 that first month. Then health insurance, car repairs, emergencies, the transfers kept coming without question. I never said no. I thought I was helping, supporting my family. But I was the one being used. And the message that arrived that night in the ambulance clarified the truth: I wasn't loved for who I was. I was convenient. Exploitable. And almost dying made me realize I couldn't let it continue. Growing up in the Monroe household was like living in two worlds. One for Serena, the perfect, adored elder daughter, and one for me, Ilara, the practical, invisible one. My sister had the charisma that made my parents' faces light up whenever she walked into a room. She was their star, their golden child. I was just a kid who quietly did her homework, cleaned up her messes, and followed the rules. When Serena decided to pursue fashion design, my mother cried tears of joy and my father called her our little visionary. When I announced my dream of becoming a doctor, the response was simply, "Practical. That's good. Keep at it." No excitement. No encouragement. Just practicality. That early contrast planted the seeds of a lifelong lesson: love in this house came with a ranking system. I tried to ignore it. I buried myself in books, determined to prove my worth. 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, 3 years of cardiology residency. I pushed myself relentlessly, motivated by ambition, but also by the faint hope that someday my parents would notice my achievements. The reality hit hardest on graduation day. My parents arrived 2 hours late. Serena had an emergency meeting with a potential investor, and apparently, that was more important than seeing me graduate. There were no flowers, no celebration dinner, just a quick parking lot photo before they rushed off. I compared it to Serena's first fashion show 3 years earlier, The whole family flew to New York, front row seats, 5-star hotel. Dad posted 17 photos on social media praising her talent. I got a single, half-hearted snapshot and a lukewarm, "Congrats, honey." I told myself it made sense. Fashion was competitive. Medicine was stable. I could manage alone. But what I didn't realize then was that the favoritism didn't stop at words and attention, it extended to my finances. 8 years ago, shortly after finishing medical school, my father called. "Ilara, we're in a bit of a bind. Could you help with the mortgage just this once?" I transferred $2,400 without hesitation. That once quietly became every month: mortgage, insurance, car repairs, emergencies, roof leaks. 8 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars quietly flowing out of my account, all while Serena received endless support and praise. By the time I became pregnant with Aurea and Ethan, the pattern was deeply entrenched. When my ex left during my 5th month, I called my parents after a frightening bleeding episode, terrified and desperate for support. Their response: "Serena needs us right now. We can't come." Not for my birth. Not for the first sleepless month. But the automatic transfers kept coming. I realized I wasn't being supported because of love, I was being exploited out of habit and convenience. That realization stung worse than any hospital pain. But it also sparked the change that would eventually set me free. It was a Tuesday evening. I had just finished a grueling 16-hour shift at the hospital. My body was exhausted, my eyes heavy, but I was alert enough to drive. The light turned green, and I entered the intersection, but I never saw the truck coming. It ran the red light at high speed, smashing into my driver's side. Glass shattered. Metal screamed. The world spun and went black. When I woke, I was in an ambulance, pain searing through my abdomen. A familiar face hovered above me, Dr. Marcus Hale, an emergency physician I'd worked with for 2 years. "Ilara, can you hear me?" he asked. His voice was steady, calm, and somehow reassuring. I tried to speak. My voice came out weak. What's happening?" "You were in an accident. We're taking you in now. Possible internal bleeding, you'll need surgery." Surgery. The word hit me like another collision. My heart skipped. Aurea and Ethan. My arms instinctively reached out. "The kids, they're with the babysitter, she leaves at 8, I whispered. Marcus glanced at his watch. 7:15, I had 45 minutes. 45 minutes to find someone to watch my children while doctors cut me open. My hands shook as I pulled up my parents' number. It rang 4 times. "Ilara. What is it?" "We're about to leave." My father's voice sounded impatient, distant. "Dad. I need help. I'm in the hospital. Surgery. Please, watch the twins." Silence. Then muffled voices. My mother's tone sharp, annoyed. Serena's laugh in the background. The line went quiet. Then a text came through. "You've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have concert tickets with Serena tonight. Figure it out yourself." I stared at the screen. 2 messages, 3, nothing changed. Vanessa's, or rather, Serena's, laughing emoji. That was all I was worth. Marcus noticed my screen. "What did they say?" I shook my head, unable to speak. Something inside me had broken. It wasn't just the bleeding. It was years of exploitation, favoritism, and neglect. "I need a phone," I whispered. Marcus handed me his without hesitation. I googled emergency nanny services, found one with 24-hour availability, explained the situation in clear sentences, and authorized immediate payment. Within 4 minutes, my twins were covered. Safe. Federal monitored. Strangers were taking better care of them than my own family would. The ambulance pulled into the hospital. Pain overwhelmed me, but it wasn't just physical, it was emotional, the weight of years of being used and dismissed. That day, on that hospital bed, I made the hardest but clearest decision of my life. I would stop giving them everything. Mortgage payments, insurance, car repairs, they were done. I blocked my parents' numbers, Serena's number, all of them. I didn't cry. I didn't second guess. I simply set down a weight I'd been carrying for 8 long years. The surgery took 4 hours. Ruptured spleen, internal bleeding. A few more minutes and I wouldn't have made it. But as I lay there recovering, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, control over my life. The surgery was over, but recovery was grueling. I spent 5 days in the hospital, every hour punctuated by nurses checking vitals, for drips, and the haze of morphine. My body ached, but the emotional weight was heavier. Not one call, not one text, not a single visit from my parents. Strangers, the emergency nanny service, had done more for my twins than my family ever had. By day 3, Marcus had brought me coffee and offered quiet company. I asked for my laptop. I needed to face something I had avoided for years, the financial reality. 8 years of automatic transfers glared back at me. $2,400 every month for the mortgage, $800 for insurance, countless smaller payments for emergencies and repairs. All flowing to the people who had dismissed me, called me a burden, laughed at my suffering. I made a decision. I cancelled every automatic transfer. I blocked my father's number, my mother's, Serena's. No dramatic confrontation. No tears. Just a quiet, unyielding choice. For the first time in nearly a decade, I put myself first. Marcus stopped by later that afternoon. He didn't push. He didn't question. He just sat quietly as I sipped tea, letting me absorb the weight of what I had finally done. "How are you feeling?" he asked. I looked up at him, and for the first time, I felt honest. "Better," I said. For the first time in 8 years, I actually feel better. I knew the fallout would come. My parents would notice the missing money. They would rage, cry, demand explanations. But in that moment, in that hospital room, none of it mattered. I had drawn my line. I had chosen myself. When I was finally discharged, I returned home slowly, still sore but alive. The first morning, making pancakes for Aurea and Ethan, I felt a fragile sense of freedom. Then came the knock. My heart skipped. Standing at the door was Grandpa Leonard, my grandfather, the one family member who had always quietly observed the truth. His silver hair gleamed, his eyes sharp yet warm. "Ilara," he said, pulling me into a hug that made my surgical incision ache. "Let me see you. Let me see the twins." Grandpa Leonard had known about everything, the financial strain, the neglect, the accident. He had been watching, waiting for the right moment. And now he had come, not to lecture, but to support. He handed me an envelope, cream-colored and elegant. "Invitation," he said. "My 70th birthday next Saturday. The whole family will be there. I have something that needs to be said." As I watched Aurea and Ethan play at his feet, I felt a new kind of security. Finally, someone in my family saw me, not for what I could give, not for what I provided, but for who I was. That moment, small but profound, made the hospital pain, the betrayal, the years of financial exploitation feel like the fuel for the next chapter of my life. I was no longer just surviving. I was taking control. Saturday arrived, and with it, the long-awaited confrontation. Grandpa Leonard's house was a stately colonial estate, white columns, manicured lawns, the kind of home that whispered old money and quiet authority. I drove up the circular driveway, Oreo and Ethan chattering excitedly in the back seat, pointing at the balloons visible through the windows. Inside, more than 40 cars lined the property. The entire family had gathered. I wore a simple navy dress, professional, understated. I wasn't there to make a scene. I was there to tell the truth. The folder with 8 years of financial records rested in my bag, heavy with the weight of reality. The party was in full swing, string quartet playing in the corner, crystal chandeliers glinting, waiters moving gracefully through the crowd. My parents were near the fireplace, Dad in a crisp suit, Mom in cream, laughing at something someone said. Their eyes widened when they spotted me. Mom's laugh died mid-air. Dad's face stiffened. Then Serena appeared. My sister, always the golden child, glided over in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly student loan. Her smile was perfect, her eyes cold. "Ilara," she said, kissing my cheek. "You made it. We heard about your accident. Nothing too serious, I hope." I met her gaze steadily. Ruptured spleen. Internal bleeding. "I almost didn't make it." Her smile flickered. The first rumble of tension swept through the room when Grandpa Leonard rose from his chair. At 70, he still commanded attention effortlessly. Every eye turned to him. "Before we continue with the festivities," he said, his voice calm but firm, "I have a few things I'd like to say." The room quieted instantly. Grandpa Leonard scanned the faces of my parents and Serena, then turned to me. "Ilara, I need to see the full picture of what's happened over the past 8 years. The truth is long overdue." As he gestured, I retrieved the folder from my bag. Every bank transfer, every mortgage payment, every insurance bill, every emergency expense, all recorded meticulously. Month after month, year after year, the money flowed to my parents, unnoticed, unacknowledged, and now, uncontested. I watched the color drain from my parents' faces as Grandpa Leonard began to read aloud. Mortgage payments. Health insurance. Car repairs. Gifts for Serena's fashion projects. Total, $364,200. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. The string quartet stopped mid-note. Even the chatter of the party seemed to vanish. Serena's composure faltered for a moment, then she tried to regain it. This can't be right. You're exaggerating." Aunt Eleanor stepped forward, her voice sharp. "No exaggeration. This is reality. For 8 years, Ilara carried your burdens while you dismissed her as a nuisance. I held my twins close, heart pounding, finally feeling the validation I had longed for. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't humiliation. It was the truth." The room was silent, the truth hanging heavy in the air. My parents' faces were pale, frozen with shock and disbelief. Serena's carefully constructed facade cracked. No amount of charm, excuses, or laughter could mask the reality laid bare before everyone. I could feel the weight of years pressing down, but this time, I wasn't carrying it alone. Grandpa Leonard's eyes were steady on me. "Ilara," he said softly, "the truth is now clear. Do you have anything you wish to say?" I took a deep breath, feeling Aurea tug at my sleeve. I held her close and straightened Ethan in his car seat harness. My voice, steadier than I expected, filled the room. I didn't come here to humiliate anyone. I didn't come for revenge. I came because the truth needed to be heard. I looked at my parents. For 34 years, I believed love was something you earned. I gave, I sacrificed, I asked for nothing, and I thought eventually, you'd see my value. I was wrong. I wasn't strong to you. I was convenient. I was exploitable. No matter how much I gave, it was never enough to be seen as worthy. The room shifted. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even distant relatives, some with tears in their eyes, watched quietly. Aunt Eleanor placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. Grandpa Leonard nodded sadly, silently giving me permission to continue. I covered your mortgage, your insurance, car repairs, emergencies, gifts for Serena's ventures, all for 8 years, $364,200 in total. I never asked for thanks. I never expected a parade. But I never expected to be called a burden while bleeding in an ambulance. My mother's face crumpled. My father opened his mouth, then closed it. Serena's blue eyes flickered with shame. No words could undo what had been revealed. I pressed on. I'm done giving to people who take me for granted. From now on, my energy, my resources, my love go to the people who truly deserve it, my twins, my friends, and those who stand by me. Aunt Eleanor whispered, "Speak your heart, Ilara. Let them hear the truth." I straightened. This isn't about revenge. It's about boundaries. It's about respect. It's about finally choosing myself after years of giving without acknowledgement. If anyone sees this as betrayal, it's because they never deserved my loyalty in the first place. Whispers spread through the room. Some cousins nodded, others were stunned. Grandpa Leonard raised a hand for silence. Let this be a lesson, he said firmly. Facts cannot be disputed. Truth always finds its way. For the first time in years, I felt lighter. My voice, my story, my pain had been acknowledged. I wasn't just standing for myself, I was standing for every unseen sacrifice, every unappreciated act of love. The tension in the room was palpable, but for the first time, I felt free. Not everyone would understand, not everyone would accept it, but I had spoken my truth. And that was enough. The party ended, but the reverberations of that day lasted far longer. My parents left quietly, heads down, unable to face anyone. Serena followed, her confidence shattered. The empty space they left behind wasn't uncomfortable, it was liberating. For the first time, the weight of 8 years of exploitation and emotional neglect lifted from my shoulders. Messages flooded in over the next few days. Cousins who had blindly believed my parents' narrative reached out with apologies. Aunts and uncles began re-evaluating their assumptions. Some offered support, others simply nodded silently. Aunt Eleanor remained my anchor, her presence steady and reassuring. Weeks later, I received word that my parents were struggling to maintain their lifestyle without my financial support. The house they had lived in comfortably for years was now on the market. They were forced to take temporary jobs, adjust to real responsibilities, and confront the reality of their actions. I didn't feel satisfaction or revenge, just a quiet acknowledgement that the balance had shifted. Meanwhile, my life began to transform. The $3,200 I had once sent to my parents every month was redirected into a college fund for Aurea and Ethan. I moved into a modest 2-bedroom apartment, close to the hospital and in a good school district. For the first time, I didn't feel trapped by obligations I had never signed up for. I was free to live for myself and my children. Grandpa Leonard and Aunt Eleanor became integral parts of our lives. Every Sunday, they spent time with the twins, adventures at the zoo, ice cream outings, and quiet afternoons in the park. Marcus, my colleague and friend, continued to check in, a steady reminder that real support doesn't demand repayment or recognition. Months passed, and one evening I received a call from Serena. Her voice was small, remorseful, stripped of the polished confidence she once wore like armor. She apologized, truly apologized, for the way she had treated me, for laughing at my pain, and for turning a blind eye to the sacrifices I made. I listened, letting the words sink in, and offered a cautious hope for reconciliation in the future. I learned something profound through all of this: love cannot be bought, coerced, or earned through self-sacrifice. True love is given freely, without expectation. Boundaries are not betrayal, saying no is not selfish. Choosing yourself is not wrong, it is necessary. Now, as I watch Aurea and Ethan play, their laughter filling my small apartment, I feel a peace I never knew existed. My life is mine. My choices, my love, my energy are mine. I am no longer a burden, no longer invisible, no longer exploited. I am free. For anyone carrying a weight that was never theirs to bear, it's okay to put it down. It's okay to choose yourself. And sometimes, that choice is the beginning of everything you truly deserve.